Hey Star Trek fans, Dan Gunther here. As promised, here is my shot-by-shot breakdown of the Star Trek Picard trailer. Now, as you know, there were a number of other things announced at the San Diego Comic-Con with regards to Star Trek Discovery Season 3, the new Short Treks episodes, as well as the new upcoming Lower Decks animated series. I will be making separate videos for all of those, so stay tuned. But for now, here is the breakdown of what was definitely the biggest Star Trek hit from this weekend. So when this trailer started and we got these couple of shots of Picards Vineyard, I was kind of thinking this would be more of the same, like the teaser trailer that we got a few months ago that just kind of showed Picard on the vineyard and where his life is now, with kind of this little bit of a promise of some backstory and that sort of thing. But as we'll see very quickly, this trailer takes a number of left turns and goes in completely different directions. We hear a woman's voice ask, "Have you ever been a stranger to yourself?" And we hear Patrick Stewart's Picard reply, "Many, many times." And I feel like these images kind of evoke a sense of melancholy, and we'll see very explicitly that he's not happy where he is. He's not fitting in this civilian life, and he feels that kind of call back to space. And in this shot here, we see the original communicator badge from the TNG movies. And we've since learned, of course, that Picard retired as an admiral in the 2380s. And this presumably would have been the badge he wore at that time, because we know the movie Star Trek Nemesis, they wore this style of uniform with the kind of gray-blue paneling and the black uniform with the colored undershirt. So presumably this was the communicator badge that Picard wore at his retirement. We hear Picard say, "Nearly 2 decades ago, Commander Data sacrificed his life for me." We see the android in a drawer here. Now, a few things about this. There's been some speculation online. Is this Data? Does not seem likely, because when Data was killed in Star Trek Nemesis, he was very near the explosion of the Thalaron generator that destroyed the scimitar and presumably would have vaporized him or made him completely unrecoverable. But this android is nearly intact. There's a few kind of what look to be maybe scorch marks and that sort of thing, but it definitely has most of the parts there and has a lot less damage than you would expect Data would have had in Nemesis. And now recently there's been this interview following their panel at the San Diego Comic-Con in which Brent Spiner is asked about playing Data in the Star Trek Picard series, and he does let slip that this is actually B4 in the drawer.
Well, we are talking about Data, who we see disassembled at one point in the trailer, but also reassembled, it seems. We've gotten confirmation that you're playing Data again and not before.
Correct. So, although I think in that drawer is before, but I don't want to.
And this is kind of amusing. If you look at some of the reactions of the other actors on the panel, I don't think he was supposed to reveal that.
Correct. So, although I think in that drawer is before, but I don't want to.
Oh.
Yeah. But, no, Data is indeed on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So that might have been letting the cat out of the bag a little bit, but it's information, it's out there, I'm absolutely going to use it. So this would appear to be B4 that they're looking at. Another thing from this shot is we get an overhead view of Patrick Stewart and another actor on the show who I believe is Alison Pill, judging by the hair color. Now, we've learned at the Picard panel that Alison Pill plays a specialist, a scientist of some sort. So I am going to guess that she plays a cyberneticist, someone who is studying positronic brains and androids like Data and the other Sung-type androids. Following that, we get a few more shots of Picards Vineyard, just showing where he is at this point. The first 2 shots are the same as from the teaser trailer from a while ago, but then we get this overhead shot of Picard and his 4-legged companion, number 1, his pit bull dog. And this was recently revealed in the new poster art that was revealed recently. So I think this is a cool little addition. I've said before, I like pets in Star Trek. I've liked Spot and Porthos, and number 1 is another great new addition, I think. And I'm looking forward to seeing this pupper on screen. Over these shots, we get Patrick Stewart saying, "Over these past few years, I really tried to belong here." But we see in these shots, Picard has slapped on his comm badge. He's kind of playing a little cosplay like we all do now and again, but he's wistful and he's looking to the stars. And he ends the sentiment with, "But it never truly felt like home." And this is, I think going to be a theme. He feels that call. He misses being in space. He misses being a part of Starfleet, or at least exploring space, and is unsettled in his current life on the Vineyard. It was never really a good fit for him. So now we get our introduction of a new character for Star Trek Picard. And this is Issa Briones, who, according to IMDb, is playing a character named Dahj, D-A-H-J. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it looks to be Dahj to me. And the identity of this character is a bit of a secret and seems to be what some of the plot revolves around, at least for part of this series. We see her walking down this street on a rainy evening, and if you look inside the building, it looks as though there's some sort of display showing Jean-Luc Picard, and there's at least a couple people gathered there watching it. So I don't know if this is some sort of news broadcast or what, but it looks like Picard is in the public eye for some reason here. This is one particular shot in the trailer that hasn't gotten a lot of scrutiny, and I'm really not sure what to think about it. And there's not a lot we can really glean from this, but it does look like there's some sort of public thing going on with Picard. But it becomes clear that Dahj has sought out former Captain Picard, and she says, "Do you know who I am? Everything inside me says that I am safe with you." So I'm curious if this is someone who's known to Picard somehow, or if we'll hear later Picard suspects something about her identity, but I don't think he knows exactly who she is, but has some sort of suspicion. And there have been a lot of rumors online, not so much rumors, I guess, but speculation by various people about who this character is. And there's a lot of different theories out there. Some interesting ones are that she could be Data's daughter, Lal, and there is kind of a superficial resemblance there. Personally, I think it has something to do with the Borg. I don't know exactly what yet. There's a lot of speculation in that direction as well. Perhaps she is related to Seven of Nine somehow, who we will see, of course, later in the trailer, or related to the Borg Queen in some way. I'm really not sure. I'm not a huge fan of making weird speculations, but it's fun to try and figure out who this is. I don't have enough clues at this time to make what I feel is an educated guess. In this shot, we see a setting that has been leaked in a few on-set photos that have been leaked. Picard is at what appears to be Starfleet headquarters, and this is really the best look we get at the Starfleet uniforms in this trailer. Not sure if they're Starfleet officer uniforms or cadet uniforms or exactly what, but this is the best look we'll get at them. Still, the badge is different and a little bigger, and the top paneling has gone back to the primary main three colors, it looks like, but with a slightly different shape. I'm really interested to get a closer look at these uniforms personally. Picard is talking to an admiral, and he says, "Admiral, I have encountered a woman. She came to me for help." And we see this shot of an assassin or some sort of agent in a helmet and body armor firing a weapon at Issa Briones' character as she runs with almost superhuman strength and agility past the phaser blasts or disruptor blasts or whatever they are. We also see a bit more of the fight scene on the steps, and you can see in the background Picard is witnessing this take place as she fights off these two guards after having previously incapacitated a third one, and she's doing incredible fight moves and manages to kick one off the ledge of these stairs, and as he flips and falls over, he's beamed away. So I'm not sure what that is, some sort of safety feature in this area, that if you're falling, you get beamed to safety or something like that. But very interesting. She does definitely appear to be superhuman of some sort. And Picard says to the Admiral, if she is who I think she is in serious danger. Now, it's interesting wording. If she is who I think she is, not what I think she is. So I may be reading too much into this, but it sounds like he has a suspicion as to her exact identity, not just, what she is, like is she an android or is she Borg or something like that, but specifically, who is she? So again, this is adding to that mystery that they're obviously trying to entice us with this trailer. And we get the title card here, coming in 2020. So earlier it seemed that they were aiming for late 2019 release. That sounds like it has been pushed to early 2020, according to what they said at the Comic-Con panel. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer, unfortunately. But hopefully that gives them the time to make the product that they really want to, and give us a really killer series. So looking forward to that. Unfortunately, we do have to wait a little longer, but I'm happy that we're getting it. Next up is kind of the first space shot, really, of the trailer so far, and it's these vessels approaching a red planet, kind of a Mars-looking planet. Something else I'm going to make a video on that came out at Comic-Con is the trailer for the short treks. And one of those short treks, it is said, is going to be a teaser for Star Trek Picard. And one of them is also called Children of Mars. This is going way out on a limb there, but I'm thinking that the short trek trailer, Children of Mars, might be the teaser for Star Trek Picard in that group of short trek episodes. And this one shot is the only thing that makes me think that might be true. But it might not be. This might be a completely different planet altogether, may have no relation whatsoever to what the short treks episode Children of Mars is about. And that might not even be the Picard episode, but just really linking very disparate dots here. And probably doing a very bad job as a detective. But these ships, I'm curious what you guys think of them. They have, a very winged profile to them. They look like possibly Romulan. We know Romulans tend to have the wing feature of their ships and that sort of thing. So, looks like a large fleet, possibly of Romulan ships, heading towards a Mars-like planet. This shot here, when I first watched the trailer, I wasn't sure what to make of it. I didn't know what was going on. Based on what we get later in the trailer, I'm thinking this has something to do with a former Borg drone on the table that they're operating on or analyzing or experimenting on somehow. And these would appear to be Romulans, I think, doing that experimentation. If you look closely at the body or the person on the table, he's missing an arm. It was possible it was amputated when he was assimilated as a Borg drone. And he looks to be hairless as well, which would be consistent with a former Borg drone as well. So, or a current Borg drone, possibly with the implants removed. Again, this is all kind of going out on a limb, not entirely certain that's the case, but based on what happens later in the trailer, it seems to me a good guess. We get a voiceover here with a voice saying, "Sometimes I worry that you've forgotten who you are." A few people online have said that they think this is Marina Sirtis as Deanna Troi, and I do admit the voice does sound similar. I'll put a little clip in here for you, actually, and see what you guys think.
Sometimes I worry that you have forgotten who you are.
But there's another character that continues talking a moment later, who I think is who this character is. Now, interestingly, with that voice saying, you've forgotten who you are, we get this great shot of the banner from the Captain Picard Day scene in the episode The Pegasus, which, of course, is a bit of a fan favorite moment. People celebrate Captain Picard Day now on the date that corresponds with the star date given in that episode. And this is just a nice little touch. I kind of have seen people read a little bit more into it with some theories that I think are really interesting. We'll see some characters later who are adults but may have been children on the Enterprise when Picard was the captain, and they might be some of the characters that are in Star Trek Picard now. And if so, this might be something linking them to that time aboard the Enterprise D. I think it's a really great theory, and I really love the thought that people have put into this, but it's really cool to see that banner. It really kind of hit me in the feels, as they say, so that was very nice. And then we get a couple of quick shots of some sort of facility where it looks as though people are being held. We see first this top-down shot, and you can see this is the same place as you'll see in the next shot because of the sign over here to the right-hand side of the screen that we'll get a better look at later. It looks like maybe they're wearing prison jumpsuits of some kind, but maybe they're wearing Starfleet insignias. I'm not sure. We'll get a bit of a closer look at those in a moment. But it looks as though this facility, which we now see from the bottom looking up, is aboard a Borg vessel or Borg facility of some kind. If you'll notice up behind the catwalks there, you see a couple of Borg alcoves where Borg regenerate when they're on their downtime kind of thing, being guarded by a couple of Romulan guards with rather large weapons. And if you look, the sign, very chilling. This facility has gone 5,843 days without an assimilation. And that works out to about 16 years and between 2 and 3 months. So interestingly enough, 16 years earlier, if this is 2399, like we've heard, that would put it in 2383 that the last time an assimilation took place here. Now, that's assuming that these are Earth days and that, anyway, yeah. So not sure what the significance of that might be, but definitely a very chilling sign, and, you know, a sign that this is aboard a Borg vessel. The people being held down below may be former Borg drones or something like that, but not sure what's going on here. It's definitely a converted Romulan facility. If you'll notice, there's also the Romulan logo on the railings going around as well. So very chilling scene here. I'm not sure what this is about. So here we get a closer look at some of the people being held in the pit, and so it's not a Starfleet insignia they're wearing, some sort of other insignia and maybe prison jumpsuits of some sort. You can see over here on the left, someone in the off-white version has like a hexagonal badge of some kind on. And Issa Briona's character appears to be one of the people here as well, which might again link her to being some sort of connection to the Borg again, as some people have speculated. And so the next shot is the aforementioned woman whose voice I think it is earlier, not Marina Sirtis, saying "we do not," completing the phrase from before that you may have forgotten who you are, we have not, indicating that Picard's duties and what he has done in the past have served the Romulans somehow, and they see him as a sort of hero or someone of great value and import. So it looks as though the Romulans are playing a very large role in this series. We see a lot of them in this trailer, including this woman here, who I'm assuming is a Romulan. We get a shot here of Picard walking in some very familiar surroundings. Of course, this is near the Vasquez Rocks in California, where many a Star Trek adventure have been filmed. We hear a voice saying, "You can't do it alone. You need help. You need protection. You need a crew." And during that voiceover, we get a number of shots. First is Picard back again at the Starfleet headquarters, and you see what look to be public transporters, people kind of beaming away behind him there, which at first when I saw this, it looked like there was some sort of attack. People were being beamed away, but then I noticed the arches, and it seems to be business as usual. People aren't, scared or whatever. Those are just public transporters that seem to operate very rapidly. The next shot is of another one of the new actors in the series, Santiago Cabrera, who according to IMDb plays the character of Chris Rios. And this might be one of the characters who is a former child aboard the Enterprise D when Picard was a captain there. And there's a particular line later that also makes me suspect that at least some of the people in this crew fulfilled that role in the past. Next shot is Alison Pill as character Dr. Agnes Jarate, another name from IMDb. She's the specialist that I was talking about earlier, who would seem to possibly be a cyberneticist based on that earlier scene in the trailer. And again, another person who may have been a child aboard the Enterprise D, given that she's a human. A number of the other new characters seem to be Romulans, which would kind of preclude them from being in that role earlier, but she's another one who may fit the bill for that particular piece of speculation. And this character here is played by Michelle Hurd, and she plays Raffi Musiker, who, according to an earlier interview, has some sort of past relationship with Picard. This is a character that I have the most questions about. I don't know what kind of relation she has or what that kind of connection there is, so I'm really curious to find that out. This would appear to be Evan Evagora, who is a relatively new actor who plays the character of Elnor, assuming a Romulan, and he seems to be kind of a bit of a mystical character, a bit of a martial artist or something like that. I've seen people calling him kind of the Legolas of the new Star Trek Picard. Based on this shot, and then shortly thereafter this shot, I would agree. He definitely looks like some sort of fighter character teaching Picard some sort of martial art, possibly, and being very elfin. And then we get this character, another Romulan. I'm not sure who this is. I haven't been able to really look up who that is or what his role is, but he has the line, "Be the captain they remember," to which Picard reacts with this smile, which I really liked. That kind of really warmed my heart to see Picard's smile here. Now, this was the line that led a lot of people to think that some of these characters may be children who are aboard the Enterprise D, because they would remember him as a captain, as a father figure, as a leader, and he has to step into that role once again, it sounds like. And here we see the assembled crew aboard some sort of ship. We see Picard sitting kind of at that chair towards the back as well. I'm curious to see what this ship looks like, if it's one of those bird-like ships that we see earlier and later in the trailer, or if this is a different ship altogether. I'm really excited to learn more about this. It has a kind of Firefly-esque feel, this kind of ragtag crew that some people have criticized, but I'm excited that this isn't just a continuation of Star Trek The Next Generation with Picard in a Starfleet role. It really seems as though they're doing something very different. We see Picard walking into some sort of village, and it looks as though he's wearing the Picard family crest on his chest instead of, a Starfleet comm badge or something like that. This rapid series of shots of Picard and this medical person, I'm not sure, or whoever this is, walking down a corridor, kind of a goofy expression on her face, it looks like. They also seem to be followed by some sort of floating drones, 3 of them. I'm not sure what that's about. And then rapid shots here. We get this character walking through that scanner in the doorway and facing Issa Briona's character, after which he says to this woman, she has no idea what she truly is. So again, coming back to that, who is this woman? What is she? What is her identity? And then this Romulan character being choked or attacked by somebody yelling, "She is the end of all." So again, what is she? Why is she the end of all? She's the destroyer, he says. And then we see this shot of a Borg Cube, which was kind of another one of the first big whoa moments for me in the trailer. Now, a lot of people have been commenting oh, they've changed the design of the Borg Cube. It looks different. There's blue parts. Based on this, and then another shot we get of the interior, what I think is the interior of this cube later, it looks as though it's been damaged or is being disassembled or something and being used as some sort of a base. And the blue is kind of a force field holding in the atmosphere or holding out, something, holding that part of the ship together, that's being used as perhaps this facility we saw earlier where the people are being held in that pit. And this is immediately followed by another wow moment for me, where Picard is pouring himself a drink and we hear a voice just off screen say, "The hell are you doing out here, Picard?" And the voice sounds familiar, and Picard turns and we see that it's Jeri Ryan as 7 of 9, reprising her role here. And she finishes her statement, "Saving the galaxy." I've seen some criticism online of people saying oh, it's so out of character for 7 of 9. She's acting so different. I think people tend to forget we saw only 4 years of Seven of Nine's life, and that was immediately after her being rescued from the Borg, which was the only life she had known since the age of 4 kind of thing, was being a Borg drone. So, of course, now this is 20 years later, 20 years or more later, and she's obviously developed in that time, and she's had a lot more life off screen than she ever had on screen. So of course she's much different than she was. I would almost say that it would be a mistake if she was the same as she was in Voyager. Another thing I want to briefly say is her Borg implants here look a little different than they did before. They're kind of more monochromatic, fewer highlights, and I'm wondering if that's a deliberate change or if they're still working on making it look better or something like that. But they just don't look as good to me as her implants did in Voyager. But that said, whatever, it's a minor change, and I'm really thrilled to see Seven of Nine. It's very, very cool. So another very quick series of shots here. We see the interior of what I assume is that Borg cube with that blue force field, as I was talking about. There's a number of ships kind of flying through this void here. And again, they're very avian looking. They're winged, and I'm thinking Romulan. They have a very Romulan aesthetic feel here. Another shot of this ship that Picard and his crew are on. Picard being apprehended by Romulan soldiers or guards or some such. And then this shot, which has led to a lot of speculation. Now, we know that Jonathan Del Arco has joined the cast as Hugh, who you might remember from Star Trek The Next Generation, the episodes I, Borg and Descent Part 2. I'm wondering if this possibly is Hugh. I'm not sure. This could be Hugh or just another former Borg drone who is having his implants removed, which is what led me to believe that's what's going on the table earlier in the trailer as well. Another shot of Seven of Nine. People running as the music crescendos, of course, because it's an action trailer. Picard firing a weapon that it looks like that he had secreted below this desk in his home, so possibly something is threatening Picard as well that he has to try and get away from. Another quick shot of Issa Briona's character, and then closing on Picard's very signature
Engage,
followed by the title card, and of course early 2020. Now I hope of course that you didn't stop the trailer here, because there's a little bit more after it that I really hope you didn't miss. We fade back into a close-up of Picard holding some cards, and in the background a cup of tea, presumably Earl Grey hot. And the design of the teacup, of course, looks a little bit like the ones that he would traditionally take from the replicator on the Enterprise D, which is just a nice little callback. The final scene of Star Trek The Next Generation, the television series, of course, was Picard joining the poker game put on by Commander Riker and playing cards with his command crew and his friends. The shot changes to Picard's face, and he says, "I don't want the game to end." And then we get a reverse shot of Brent Spiner as, I believe, Data, and I will explain my reasoning behind that shortly here. And he says, "I can see that, Captain." Now, when he speaks, he definitely does not sound like B4, who had a very different way of speaking and a different modulation on his voice. Plus the fact that he calls Picard Captain. Now, I have a theory about this, that this is not kind of Data in the flesh, because we all know what happened to Data. I believe this is a hologram. Picard is on the holodeck playing poker with Data, and if you look very closely, it's mostly out of frame for the shot, but at the very end you can see just a little hint of gray on the side of the uniform pop up there, which makes me think this is Data wearing the First Contact through Nemesis style of uniform, and this is kind of not a flashback, but like a reenactment on the holodeck. That's my theory anyway. Data, of course, looks a little different than he did in the series. We have to remember he's 20 years older almost than he was when he played him in Nemesis. And it looks like they've used some sort of CGI augmentation to make him look a little bit more like Data, which, kind of almost works well because he's an artificial life form and it gives this kind of uncanny valley appearance. But yeah, he's an android, so he looks a little fake. I think that's okay. And if you're watching the trailer in Canada, you get the closeout on the Space Channel. In the US, you get closeout on CBS All Access. And the rest of the world you see on Amazon Prime. So there we go. There's the trailer. So what did you all think of the Star Trek Picard trailer? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have any theories about anything that I speculated on or anything that I completely missed in the trailer, I would love to hear it. This is, really the best way to do it is to crowdsource these things and really get the hive mind kind of working and figuring these things out. So thank you all so much for watching and indulging my geekery. And of course, stay tuned for more videos dealing with Discovery Season 3, Short Treks, and the upcoming Lower Decks series. Thanks especially to the Patreon supporters who make videos like this possible. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else for liking, sharing, and subscribing if you felt this was worth it. Share it with your friends. Let them know there's a positive Star Trek channel out there that loves Star Trek and really enjoys talking about it. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, engage.